Welcome back. The second half, Siege of Middenheim. Glad you all could be here. We're gonna go ahead and get fucking started. Hello,
after,
everyone.
after the session.
Hello.
It's not big.
Hello.
Hi.
But it is to me.
So, glad you all could be here. Megan had to step away for a second. She'll be back in just a moment. But that's okay, because we have some other things going on here.
Yeah, we do. We got a bridge to blow up. We got other things to worry about.
So, Hannibal, you said you recalled Dane, right?
Yeah, I tell what's his face? Not Anders.
Cahill.
Cahill. Listen, the siege is about to begin, and I need Dane back. So
Yeah.
I will be taking him back.
Yeah, and I think that you get a reply from Cahill that says, "Your service will be well rewarded. This would not be possible without you. Go and be safe. We will meet inside of the city together."
Okay. Well, says anything. Well, I'm probably gonna die here, so not gonna see those rewards.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that all of this preparation has led up to this moment here. The moment is here. Hannibal, we see almost reminiscent of your dream state, right? Where you're kind of hood up, disguised, walking out onto the bridge, wrapped in, probably a pile of blankets. You have this very scary thing underneath your cloth.
I have a literal nuke. Not figurative, a literal nuke.
Yeah, and so I think Morella, you're relegated to seeing if you can stop civilians from going across, because Hannibal probably told you that that's what needs to happen. But obviously you can't just bar their way, right? Because that'll be suspicious. Because the other kind of scary thing here is going to be if people from inside the city try to come and see what happens, and you all are doing something still on the bridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're on alert, keeping your eyes peeled. Why don't you go ahead and roll me a perception check?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Let's do this. It's a high. It's better than nothing.
That. So I think that Morella, you realize you're not the only one waiting for something to happen.
Oh boy.
As your eyes kind of fall over the crowd, you're watching people. You're kind of impeding their way across and ushering them on. And you're doing so very skillfully. You see, your eyes rest on the same couple of people a couple of times. They're not guardsmen. A lot of them have darker colored cloaks on. Maybe their hoods are up. You see a couple that are kind of just sitting in the alleyway. There's probably a couple of beggars that are on the street with a little cup, but their eyes are sharp and they're also looking around. And I think you realize that there's a fair amount of people waiting for something to happen, and they're doing so covertly, which means that they might be allies. And I think you count quite a few individuals, but they're also moving kind of in and out of the crowd as not to draw suspicion either. Simply because you rolled high enough, you realized what was going on. And again, I think you identify a couple of the threats as well. At the gatehouse itself, there's a very skeleton crew contingent of guardsmen from the Norsemen. In fact, I think you can see a couple of them sitting in chairs atop the wall, probably playing cards. And which is probably why you were able to spot all of this nastiness going down, because the last thing anyone's going to expect is an attack on the North Gate. Because first of all of the growling undead and demons outside wouldn't be coming from the other direction, and they control the city, right? So why would anybody attack from inside the city?
Yeah.
So I think that you see that their discipline is very lax in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously, while that's happening, and while Hannibal, maybe you like kneel down at the end of the bridge, right, to begin your treacherous walk back and hope that not too many people are caught in the blast. We see Kree. You and your force emerge from the forest, and you have them arrayed out very long-wise, right? So you can show a bigger force than is possible. You have them arrayed out across the whole forest, and we get that scene of like the shot up the line of lizardmen and bears kind of standing side by side, like roaring and growling and hissing. And what type of like noisemaker would you make? Now, lizardmen are prone to drums, and I think that Kieselites are as well, so that would make sense. But also probably horns or trumpets or something else. What's the charge build up for your force that you have?
I mean, obviously, it's Nox Roar.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so who can Noct call to everyone? You know what I mean? Like, that signals the trumpets, but what kind of noise are you creating? Is it simply just the roars of the beasts?
Nox Roar is how would you put it? He's bigger than a normal cold one. He's different. So his roar almost sounds like a crash of thunder when he lets loose, and he's not just, rumbling around.
Yeah, so we see some Norsemen kind of patrolling the walls on the west gate, and we see one is stopped, and he kind of like taps his buddy on the shoulder and looks, and we see the group emerge. And we see you bedecked in your full battle rattle, as they would call it. And we see you with your normal lance, I assume.
Yes.
And you're leading this host, and you put your lance in the air, and Noct roars with a crash of thunder. And everybody on the wall is like, they're like squinting and looking, and then they're like, wait, do they mean to like charge us? And then the host begins to walk, and then they begin to trot, and then they begin to like gallop across the short field area from the forest up to the bridge. And I think that Farron, you hear coming from the west gate, you hear horns. And your eyes like shoot over, and you can see like a couple of the other people around you. They're like looking up, and they're like, "What is that? I don't understand what's going on." And while the horns are going off, we hear the beat of drums just as from the south gate we see the army begin to march forward. And I think that as they begin to march forward, we see the people who are on the south gate. We see them like cast down their weapons and take off their helms, and we realize that when I described this, remember when Morella, when you arrived, there were fiends mixed in with these regular soldiers over by the south gate. And as they know the battle is approaching, we see them assume their true form, and we see a host of daemons kind of take up the guard and stand stoically over on the walls, looking out over the army that's marching for them.
Matt Damon's.
What?
Matt Damon's.
Yes, Matt.
An army of Matt Damons.
An army of Matt.
That's actually scarier. Well done.
It's actually frightening. Yeah. It's an army of Jason Bournes. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
Oh God.
And they seem posed to defend their gate. And I think we see the gate itself kind of like creak, the bars like creak as if they're trying to be wrenched open. But everything stands still for now. And I think that the last thing that we see is Aelin and Jericho. You all are down making final preparations, and suddenly the ground begins to rumble and shake, and dust begins to fall from the ceiling, and everybody's looking around like, what was that? And all of the people who have divine magic in the room, they suddenly all almost simultaneously kind of start massaging their foreheads as if they're having a migraine or a great headache. And Jericho, you as you begin to inhale, you smell sulfur coming from somewhere. And you look around, and it fades almost as soon as it came up, but you know that something terrible has happened.
Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn.
And I think what we see is the smoke, the greenish haze begins to rise over the north gate. Morella, you're probably like temporarily blinded by the light that it gave off. Hannibal, you are coughing probably with the smoke that's kind of ascending in the area. And we see the destruction of this device that Hannibal has placed. We see that there are, for lack of a better term, the laws of physics as we know it are being defied. We see pieces of bridge almost like rising up in this tornado-y form. And we see the smoke and debris begin to form this giant sandstorm at the base of the bridge. With this kind of laced green, and we can see little sparks of lightning kind of floating through it. And we can hear the crumbling and creaking. And Hannibal, you're like, getting off the bridge as fast as you can, and you get, you guys are like standing at the gate, and all traffic is stopped, right? And everybody's like so in awe that nobody's really moving anymore. And then suddenly it begins to set in, the panic begins to set in, and people in carts are being tumbled over. And it's kind of, for you who were closer to the blast, it seems to be almost in slow motion, and also seems to be like you're deafened slightly. You can see people screaming and like grabbing and like pushing people off the way. I think a couple people get like pushed off the bridge as people are trying to run from this, whatever it is, because it is spreading a little bit. You can feel the bridge begin to shake and crumble beneath the impact of this. And Kree, as you're charging, you see this cyclone of greenish debris and energy like rise into the sky. Maybe you take it for your signal to charge in, because you were supposed to have like a signal.
It is a pretty good one.
Yeah, and so you know that this is the
You're
moment.
welcome.
This is the moment that everything comes to fruition. And I think that we see Anthony, he sits and he sees that, and his face hardens, and all of the marching soldiers begin to march quicker and pick up to a trot and then into a sprint, and they hit the bridge, and they begin running across the bridge. And as soon as they do hit the bridge, what we see is the gate opens. The south gate begins to roll upwards, but then doesn't open as we would traditionally know it. The area around the gate seems to distort and warp, kind of if you were looking at it through water. And as it distorts and warp, we see that an image forms, and the gate opens like a maw of a great beast. And we see that the iron grate that normally would sit has become the teeth of this great beast, and from inside of it we see this glowing reddish orangish energy begin to form. And the first thing we see is, emerging from this reddish energy, stepping onto the bridge itself, is a great daemon, and he wields this sword that he pulls out and is flaming, and he puts it in both of his hands, and he addresses the oncoming horde. And behind him, beginning to file out, are this multitude, this host of angry demons and chaos entities. and they begin to rush across the bridge to meet the force of the army rushing onto it. And so that's what we see from the Southgate perspective. So, it might not seem like it, but the three most important people in this particular scenario at the climax, the initiation of this, are the three who are not currently embroiled in anything in particular. So, Farron, having what information you have, what do you do? What is your goal here?
Oh God.
It's starting in earnest. So it is
Yeah.
up to you to determine what you are going to do, how you are going to affect the initial battle.
I am currently deciding between the west and the south gate. Because I think just having somebody to attack one of the gates from the back would be highly beneficial.
Do you feel equipped to deal with the Daemon Door?
I'm going to the west gate.
I'm just throwing it out there. You have enough information that that's not really metagaming.
No, yes. Yeah, I'm going to help the lizard people.
Okay,
assault.
excellent. Fantastic. So you begin sprinting in that direction, I guess.
Yes.
So, from Megan, I think you're back, right?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. You missed the part where the explosion happened, right?
Yes.
So the ground rumbled beneath and around you and around your feet, and dust fell from the ceiling, and there's probably like some stalactites that broke off and kind of shattered into the ground, and everything kind of becomes dislodged in your little underground area where you are, and you suddenly have a sharp pain in your temple, almost as if a migraine has suddenly struck you, and the very light smell of sulfur kind of invades your olfactories.
Yay, more demons.
And you know something terrible has happened, and quite close to you. So, obviously, there's a bit of panic and chaos in this immediate moment here. But you and Jericho have the ability to go do something. What do you think that would be? Now, it should be noted that when you look around, the only other people that appear to be suffering from this headache appear to be those that you know to have divine magic. Jericho appears unaffected by that, although he might have like that smell on his face that looks like he smelled something bad.
Right, so you're all... That was something bad, then, is what I'm getting from the way everyone holy in the room just kind of started suffering.
Aylin's like kind of holding her head and just nodding, like, yes, clearly.
Does that mean we should move, or that we need to change of plans?
It appears something has forced our hand to maybe make, and she's like kind of wincing, another decision. She's kind of like looking around for oh god, what's his name?
Almond.
Yeah. I assume he's near.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the desk, and he's kind of like pinching the bridge of his nose, and you can see like he's kind of like gripping one of his axes, and he's kind of like got it in his hand, but like resting on the table in front of him. And he says, "What in Ulrich's name was that?"
I might have an idea. How quickly do you think we can all get out of here, mobilize, enact the plan?
Should move quickly. It seems like, well, for lack of a better term, things are afoot. Let's go. And he kind of like raises up and begins yelling instructions to the men to gather up everyone. Now, Are you going to tell people that it is possible that the East Gate will be accessible? Because that's a thing. Like, did you send that message to Cahill?
That was the message that I was hoping we were sending.
Yeah, 100%. The second we got confirmation that they were like, yes, this is a possibility, we just need a couple things to happen first, I would have immediately said, like, to Cahill, Westgate, is going to be open. Look for the signs.
In about an hour.
Yeah. Well,
it'll
take about that for some swift riders and runners to get up there, right?
Yeah.
Because they're all at the south right now. So it probably works out and lines up pretty perfectly. So I think we see Cahill, then we see a brief scene where he's picking out like the scouts and swift runners, like not the heavily burdened individuals, to make their way as quickly as possible to the East Gate. Any riders that he still has, he sends in that direction. He himself doesn't go though. He himself is going to lead the charge in the South Gate. Along with the clerics that are in tow there to see if they can do anything about this fiendish door is, which I think we know now what it might do. And also any of the like heavily armored individuals or more shock troopy individuals, because they wouldn't be able to make it to the East Gate. So essentially, in not so many terms, the group of you has been able to assail the city from all sides simultaneously, which is obviously going to give you a significant advantage in the upcoming days.
Yeah.
So
We did it.
Are the two of you going to go provide the quote unquote protection?
That's the plan. And
Yeah.
I think if we can I'm not sure what opportunities Jericho might have had to try to send messages elsewhere in the city, but seeing as he probably didn't have a whole lot of magical prep or advice to be offering while they were figuring out their ritual to create a new bridge, he would have liked to reach out to the whatever rebel cells he thinks might be available and see if he can get them to basically try to interfere as much as possible with any troop movements in the on the eastern side of the city.
Oh yeah, and you're obviously fully aware that that's like been the plan anyway. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
That will certainly be a happenstance that will occur, no problems. So I think that the way I want to do this, first of all, is I want to get everybody where they're supposed to go, because this is the part of the game where it's going to be important. Now, the other thing that's important is the NPCs that you have at your disposal is also going to matter. So Daniela, I assume, is going to be with you, Aelin, even though she's been silent.
Yeah, I would imagine
Forever and always.
the stalwart silent.
Yeah, and Kira and Malia are probably going to be with you, Morella, and Hannibal.
Who is?
Kira and Malia.
Oh, okay, they're mine after all. Also, could you put my...
You can't own people.
We talked about this.
I have not been shown the law.
Untrue.
Morella would say otherwise.
Also, could you put my thing on there? It's not on there.
Morello would say she is the law, let's be fair.
I mean,
yeah, where did Hannibal go?
Yeah, I am royalty. And royalty tends to be that way.
Don't tell me what to do. I am the law.
There we go. Okay.
I mean,
so
you're nobility, you're not strictly royalty.
Pish posh.
So as
I
I
can't just make laws.
as I see
Same
it,
difference.
Kree and his forces, along with Farron from the backstabbing angle, are going to attempt to take the West Gate. Jericho and Daniela and Aelin are going to attempt to hold off any forces that might come running to see what's going on at the East Gate, which you have the potential to go unnoticed, at least mostly here. So you guys probably have it a little bit better than the others. But Morella and Kira, Malia, and Hannibal we'll have another situation.
Like I said, it's a chance. We don't know what might happen. It's very small. 10%.
So, Hannibal, you know immediately that your plan has worked. And I think you see as soon as that plan has worked, Morella, those people that you were watching, they didn't know what was going to happen, but they do regain their composure probably quicker than everybody else. And I think you see those two guards that were just like playing cards up at the top of the wall. You see them tossed over into the abyss. And I think that you see men and women both who are clearly now recognizable as resistance members securing an area around the gate. And while they're doing that, that's great, and Hannibal makes it up to you, and you maybe like clasp him on the shoulder and say good job, and Hannibal, you suddenly feel very cold. The air chills around. Morella, you can kind of feel it too. You maybe take a breath, and you can see your breath on what was previously a very hot and humid day. And we can see kind of running up the sides of the bridge that are still intact, kind of from this epicenter of what you have caused, which is still like clouded in debris and smoke and all kinds of craziness. We see ice, or at least like a mist, a cold mist begin to form along the bridge. And as you all are standing there, kind of on the bridge, looking at this, you see the gate begins to freeze over. And you see this wall of mist, cold air that kind of settles in between where the group of you are and the city. And kind of crawling through this mist that is now formed, you can see like kind of the sparks of that greenish energy. We see a man who's kind of like, his arm is all disfigured. He was clearly caught in the blast. His legs, he looks like he's probably paralyzed. He's probably missing a leg. He's crawling with one arm. And he appears, and he looks up at you, the group of you standing there. And with hatred in his eyes, and his mouth opens and he begins to scream kind of an unearthly scream. And we can see that his body contorts and begins to change. Hannibal, I think at first it looks similar to a rapid mutation effect. But then there comes a presence that inhabits that figure. And the figure grows to a large size. And you can see that kind of bathed in this almost icy armor, a creature steps forth from where this individual was. Looks something like... I'm on the GM layer. Second layer.
Oh my. Oh my.
There was
That
only
was
a 5% chance of this happening. How could it?
Technically, you can't prove this is your fault.
Oh, we'll sure damn well try.
Marilla, quickly, get there. Get it.
Huh.
Does it have wings?
Oh yeah, it looks exactly like it does on the picture.
Shit, I was going to push it off the bridge, whatever it was. That was 100% my plan.
Yeah, transport accident between Arthas and Illidan, absolutely.
Damn you, Jordan, you read my fucking mind.
I know, man. It's crazy how good I am at this. And I think that Kira and Malia kind of like, their eyes go wide and they kind of look to Morella and Hannibal.
Don't worry, this was within... You know what, fuck it, we might die.
Yeah, and so I assume that you all engage this beast who kind of I think like there's almost like a confused look as like the creature kind of like looks at its own body for a moment.
Resistance members, get it! And then we jump in.
Rude.
Kind of like looks at its own body, and then it looks up and it smiles. And it says in like this deep booming voice, but it kind of has that like jester cackle to it. It says, "Oh, it has been a while since I've walked this place. Again, once more. Ah, the smell of despair. It's good. Why was I dragged here, though? Whose doing is this?"
I have a message.
Yeah, and he kind of like looks at you and he goes, "You may speak, human."
It's from Shaltressa. It's die.
Yeah, and you like fire off a bolt or something, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
boom.
Totally. Okay, cool. So now that we've introduced that one, let's go.
Okay, Hannibal has
That
a cool
one.
moment.
Let's go over here.
Oh, don't worry. There's many more demons. I mean, fuck. Why
So-
wouldn't there be?
Kree, as you approach, arrows begin to fly, and you know some are pinging off armor, and you know you're riding up and pinging off. You're fine. You're gonna die to an arrow from some random archer, even though that's totally how it happened in real life.
To the knee.
It's Game of Thrones style.
Yeah, Game of Thrones style. You just die. Everyone dies.
Speaking of
I
which,
don't know.
no spoilers on second season.
They're starting to pick off your men. Now you're arrayed against a couple of different units of Norsemen here. Let me go ahead and find their tokens so you can see what they look like. Oh, wait, no, I want this. Yeah, so you're arrayed up against a couple of different units of Norsemen. Here's a good one. Here's a good one. I accidentally moved the thing. That's okay. So nothing is particularly crazy about what happens, except you are trying to assail the gate with a much smaller force than should be able to assail the gate. Luckily, you have Mr. Farron McKibe to assist you. Now, Farron, you make it over there to the gate as all of this is kind of going down, and you can hear you can hear the Norsemen like keep firing, and they're shooting their bows and crossbows. You can hear the twang of arrows and all that other stuff. There's probably like maybe a couple hundred men on the walls right now in this particular area, and you know, Farron, that number is only going to swell when they realize there's an actual attack here. Because like I said, the advantage that Kree has right now is the fact that he has the element of surprise, and they're not fully equipped to throw off this raid. Granted, they do have walls and they can climb, and there's definitely going to be some battling here. But you know that the greater threat in this scenario is going to be reinforcements showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So Farron, what do you think you would do to maybe alleviate that situation? Or do you think, do you want to just get up in there, open the gates, and have them pour in? Is that the plan? Instead of trying to slow down reinforcements, make it quicker for them to get in?
No, I do think that there any metal beams on the houses.
Probably not metal beams. You could probably find some stone supports, though.
Yeah. I think at the very least, as I'm kind of approaching, I would kind of try my best to block off the at least main road into this area.
Okay. How would you do that? Would you start trying to topple buildings, and if so, how?
Yeah, I don't have very much firepower, do I? Hence why I was asking about the metal, because if there was, then it'd be very easy indeed.
Uh-huh.
That is very true. Oh, yeah. And
Could just become Harambe, yes.
I am becoming Harambe.
So you, so you sneak up. I assume you like try and get up the gatehouse. You probably kill a couple dudes on your way up. Not a big deal.
No big deal.
But you are arrayed against a fair amount of guards in this particular area. Now, the advantage that you have is the fact that that you have the element of surprise as well. So the scene I think that we see is set this as a thing. So the scene that we see is when you burst into the gatehouse, right? Like you kill a guy, you throw him off the wall, you kick open the gatehouse door, and you see there's probably like 10 or so thugs in there, right? And like some of them have like boiling oil that they're like setting up to dump down, right? Some of them probably have like large stones that they're like positioning in place, and there's probably a moment where like you look at them and they look at you, and one of them like screams in some hoarse language like, and you're like, and then you polymorph into this demon, right? And you engage with these thugs, which will play out during the combat, which is great, awesome, fantastic.
I totally meant that as a joke, but I'm glad that it's going through.
So
it is my greatest firepower to just turn into a beast and wreck it.
Yeah, it's true. So for Jericho, Aelin, and Daniela, as you're over at the East Gate, the priests of Ulrich, they arrive and they begin like setting up. You know, you have to hold this area for an hour, and you also don't want it to be too obvious.
Yeah, I don't suppose we can set this up in like a shed or something.
Yeah, no, they have to actually be at the bridge. I think they're
no guardhouses on the bridge.
There's probably one at like the gate, right? Like the gate is still somewhat intact. There's probably a couple of like strewn pieces of rubble, but like they have to go out on the bridge and like do their thing, and they're gonna try to be as covert as possible. But I think the deal here is setup is not going to be a problem. Once
it's going to be the problem.
Once they start drawing that much divine magic, everyone in the city is going to know it.
Well, I really hope they have bigger problems by then.
Right, that's like the intention here is hopefully they're like, okay, we'll deal with that when we can.
The lesser of all the problems currently, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah. That's so it seems. Big problem, I think.
So, I think that with that, I want... Let me clear this out.
Oh boy. I'm supposed to fight that motherfucker too? Oh, this is just great, Hannibal. This is just great.
Clear this out. Okay, so... Why everyone go ahead and roll initiative. Including for Daniela and Karen Malia.
Okay.
Also, Dane is with me, so could you bring him over?
He is over. He should be right there with you.
He is not.
Oh, I put him on the other map. Hold on.
Yep. It's been decided I'm gonna roll ass.
There he is. There we go.
Oh my god, I did it. It's great. Wait, Hannibal. Is
We're
that your
same.
is that your first initiative roll above 10?
No, I got a natural 20 once.
Oh,
Once.
that's less cool now because I was really hoping that was your first above 10. Oh man.
And let me associate these with a character sheet.
We're
Real
in
quick.
some deep shit.
Where are thug, 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 human,
Yeah, so
art.
my power just former blew up.
Yeah, you sound like you are on your phone? Question mark.
I am. So I'm gonna leave controlling my character up to you, okay?
Okay.
But I'm gonna stay connected by voice, alright?
Okay.
Alright, just mute me until you need me to say anything.
Okay. Well, shit happens, I guess. Is the answer to that. How much health does this unit have? This unit of oh, you know what else I need to get for you there, Free? I need to get you your unit that you have.
Yeah, I was like, Kree's attacking that gate pretty damn good with just himself.
You know it.
I mean, it definitely would be Game of Thrones then. For you.
Oh wait. Oh crap! They are not a Skaven clan.
Are you sure?
Yes. 100% positive. Okay, here we go. There's some C. Save the changes. Let me open up that character sheet and roll for them. Okay, good. They did great. And then I think I have the thugs on there already, right? Yeah, okay. Let's sort descending. Jericho. So since you don't have an active combatant, what I'm going to allow your turns to do are be a little bit more abstracted.
Cool.
Any preparation that you would like to make, like you can try and figure out how to set out traps. It doesn't have to be within the 6-second turn time limit. Since we're doing a more kind of abstracted mass battle scenario here. So what do you think your preparation would be? Understanding that it's likely that you will see some resistance after the magic has been started.
Yeah. Okay. First important question.
Yeah.
What is our immediate surrounding like? I mean,
So,
what's the environment leading up to the bridge?
Yeah, most of these buildings around here in the bridge were caught and never really kind of rebuilt or inhabited. While it connects between the West Gate, or I'm sorry, the East Gate area and the Market Quarter, and so they're kind of just like run down shacks, and there hasn't been a whole lot of infrastructure upgrades since then because the dwarves built the city, but the humans inhabited it. So not enough dwarves have come back to kind of rebuild it. So there's a lot of like debris and refuse around. There is not a lot of homes, especially right now, that are inhabited here, because they're pretty exposed to the elements and to the air. And I would say that buildings that have been rebuilt in this area after the, I think it was like 200, 300 years ago or whatever, the buildings that have been rebuilt are probably just like wooden shacks. They're not like the hardened stone where the rest of the city is kind of relying upon. So a little bit like home, maybe, when we come right down to it. But I think that, importantly, very sparsely populated.
That is good. Has there any been? To what extent might it have been like reclaimed by the wilds? Is it still very much urban, or are things overgrown?
Seeing as there's not a whole lot of wilds on the middle of the rock that Middenheim is built on, besides the great park, probably not a lot, but there probably is some growth that can be done. Again, there's not great soil, so weeds and vines maybe in the area, enough that you could maybe manipulate or do something with, but we're not talking like vast forests or anything like that.
No. I'm just wondering how ripe the area would be for plant growth.
I certainly think that would help, yeah. You could certainly make that a thing to kind of inhibit passage through.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably main roads that he doesn't really have much hope of affecting.
Right.
But I think Jericho would like to try to narrow any angles of approach by just going around the immediate blocks and massively overgrowing any plant life that's there to try to make it as impassable as possible.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's absolutely a thing you can do. I think that, isn't there a ritual cast of plant growth as well?
Not exactly.
Oh, it's you get to choose between...
Yeah, long and short.
And short duration.
Yeah,
right.
The long one has a very different effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. Go ahead and spend just the one spell slot for it, and I'll let it apply to a couple of things. I think that this will be most effective in funneling whoever might be responding to this area.
Exactly.
Which is probably the point anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they might not even notice. They're like, it's overgrown. We don't have time to hack around it. Let's just go to the
point
bigger area.
is to funnel them into Daniela's kill zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's 100% effective.
Beautiful.
Cool. So we move on. I'm gonna unmute Jackson here for a second. Oh yes, I can roll Dave's initiative. Absolutely. Creatures. Nope, he's not a creature.
Yep, he's a character.
Okay, you rolled a 9. Short descending again, and then... Okay. So, I think that Hannibal, your initial blast, maybe they just harmlessly bounce off because your initiative was low. And this individual, he kind of looks at you and he says, "Now, what was that for? That was very silly of you. Well, no matter. You will be the first I feast upon." And he takes a step, or he comes kind of stomping forward. I assume, Morella, you get in the way. Yeah, so I think that you and Kira and Malia all kind of get in the way of the creature, and you're standing there, and he kind of looks at you and addresses you, and he says, "Fine, very well, I'll deal with you first." And he's going to he gets 3 attacks. One with his actually it's supposed to
be Frostmourne, and every time it hits, it just siphons the soul out of a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only if it kills.
Yeah, only if it kills him. That's a good point. But he gets one with his sword. He gets to bite someone with his massive jaws and nastiness. Actually, I'm actually going to change that. It's going to be gore. It's going to be with his horns, because he's got horns. And then he gets to slap people with his wings.
Okay.
So.
Oh boy.
I think that he's going to swing his sword down at you, Morella. He's going to gore Kira, and he's going to slap Malia with his wings.
Yep.
So you first, Marilla.
Mm-hmm.
The 20 hit you?
It just barely hits me. It meets my AC.
Okay.
So that's 15.
Well, it's 15 plus 7, so it's
22. Okay.
22 damage. So he brings it down, and you catch it on your shield and kind of reverberate from the blow, but you feel beaten back by that, and I think that chill kind of runs across your body. He's gonna try and gore Kira. I think he actually misses her. She got 17 AC. So yeah, she's able to like kind of dodge out of the way as he brings his head down and kind of like bucks it up in her direction. And then he's gonna slap Malia with his wings, missing her as well. There you go. And by the way, Morello, you could use your disadvantage thing on either Kira or Malia. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Duly noted.
So you're beaten down a little bit, and he kind of like, I think this big creature, he looks at you and he says, "Well, that was interesting. You're not dead. Perhaps you are more worthy than I thought. I bet you will taste swell." And that ends his turn. Moving on to Aelin. So Aelin, kind of the same thing as Jericho here. You can enact some sort of preparation for an attack.
Okay. I think I'm going to kind of take a page out of Jericho's book in terms of calling upon nature. I know that technically speaking, we're not in an area where there's like a river or lake. Mm-hmm. However, we have established that there are sewer systems and wells that are full of water.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Absolutely.
So I think my hope is to kind of, over the course of the amount of time that it takes for the ritual to be completed, to be drawing as much water to me as possible in order to potentially wash away some oncoming assailants should they come into range.
Yeah, great to me.
So essentially the flood aspect, but obviously in a slightly more abstracted way.
Built up over time.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a slow... Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you begin preparing that, drawing the water to you, and preparing that. So
holding it back a bit, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. It's great. Let's see. Why do they insist on making all... Oh, there we go. Some water to wash people away, cleanse them of their sins, etc., etc.
Absolutely. It's holy. God, I wish it was holy water. That'd be great. But not currently.
All right, there we go.
We cast ceremony with like a 5th level slot.
It's like no big deal, right?
Yeah, cool. All right, so you will certainly help delay with that. Which brings us over to Farron Mackay. So Farron, as I said, you're kind of arrayed against probably about 10 enemies here. And abstractly, you can move around and punch and beat down on as many of them as you want. So what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah, so their attention is now on me.
Yeah, and not pouring boiling oil over Kree.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think at least at the start of this round, I do just I leap into them and just start going ape shit on them.
Quite literally.
Ape shit.
So It's one bite and two fists.
One could say you're going bananas.
B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
What just
It-
happened?